What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the video. So today I will be trying to figure out what's going on with my no crank situation. So parked the Civic here one day, and after I found out that my clutch was slipping, having a weird vibration situation going on, and the slip, I just pulled it here just at the side, and I went and bled the system. So I removed my clutch master, my sled cylinder. I adjusted my CMC as well, the rod from the back of the clutch pedal, and went to go start the car, take on a test drive, see if that solved my situation, because I've been in contact with well, nothing crazy, but I did contact Comp just for some help, and I spoke to a lady. She was very friendly, very nice. She suggested as well to, check everything over as far as the clutch lines, check my clutch, clutch pedal play and all that. So like I said, after I did all that, went to go start the car. All I got was clicking noise. It was just a relay. Went out, checked my battery. As you can see, the battery's not there. I'm running a D680 excess power battery, same as the PC680 from Odyssey. It's a small dry cell. But those, I realized, they tend to die quick if you don't have them on a battery maintainer or whatever. So I took that to get charged, put it back in. All I heard now was a grinding noise. So I figured the starter was bad. So took the starter out. As you can see, there's a piece of plastic covering that hole where the starter goes. And quickly went to the junkyard, picked me up another starter, took that starter to the auto store to have it tested. Tested okay, brought it home, put it on the car. Same damn thing. Incoincident. Crazy. So did a bunch of testing, man. Had to pull out the multimeter, which is a pretty good tool to have. I don't want to push tools on you guys, but I think if you guys are really heavy in modifying your car, whether it's electrical or mechanical, especially electrical, I would advise getting I have a Walmart type, but I plan on investing in a decent one. You don't need anything crazy, but having a multimeter really helps a lot. So I would suggest investing in one. So I tested all my signals, make sure I was getting 12 volts, make sure I had a good ground, make sure my ECU ground was okay. If you guys have a stock setup, your ECU ground is going to be somewhere on your valve cover for all your injectors and your spark plugs and all that. Mine is down here. I tucked mine. I was scared that the harness, because I redid this whole harness, first ever harness I ever done. I thought it eventually just messed up, you know what I'm saying? Because I had to cut wires, I had to resolder, shorten wires to my liking so I can have a clean look, around my turbo system. If you guys don't know what this white wire is, this is used for your timing. And there was a junction block which connected all of the wires for the spark plugs and the other things, and it ran to ground. I removed that, sorted them in one unit, and like I said, my ground is running there. So all my grounds checked out okay. My signal wire from my ignition checked out okay. It was whatever the battery voltage was at the time. That is what I was getting. My fuel start, my starter relay, starter cut relay, which is in the under the dashboard, that was okay. My relay is okay. So with all that being said, I was just forced to go ahead and buy another starter. So I'm going to show you guys that in a minute. As you guys can see here, I have 3 starters. This is the original of the Civic. This is the one I got from the junkyard. I got this from a 2008 Honda Accord, and this is just a remanufactured, unfortunately, one that I bought. If you guys do not know, the Honda starters are not cheap. The Mitsubishi or whatever, they're not cheap. Okay, let me see if I can find the logo. Yeah, they're not cheap. They're like $300 some, I think. And I was like, okay, let me just get it remanufactured for now, and maybe if the starter is still not my issue, at least I didn't spend too much money. I bought this for $70 some, so it won't be a problem for me returning it or whatever if it's not the starter. Like I said, I've took this starter that I pulled from that car in the junkyard. They tested out is okay, and I took mine, which I should have done first. After I removed it, I should have took it to the auto store first. They said this was good as well. So I was just not panicking, but I was more of a parts changer instead of a, just going through the solving problem, mindset. I wasn't that. I was just replacing parts, which I no disrespect, I don't want to be that guy. If I'm gonna do this car thing, I want to make sure I know what I'm doing. So what I'm gonna do is, as you guys see, I have a battery here. This is actually from the miles of speed I bought. I'm just going to bench test it here, which is something I should have done as well. So if you guys never seen this before, I'm sure you've had. I'm just going to show you guys how I do my setup, and I've already done it. But one thing that the guys probably didn't check at the auto store, so I really don't want to say the auto store machine was a failure, but I don't think the guys were really inspecting the starter mechanically as well. So the Bendix on these two, this one wasn't moving. It spins, but it wasn't moving up. The original one for my car, it was moving up, but not further enough to engage the flywheel, which is why I probably had all that grinding. New one, it goes up, spins, and stays for a minute, and when you remove the power, it goes down. So this does what it's supposed to do. So hopefully it's actually the starter, but I'm going to show you guys the setup. You're going to use the multimeter, put the multimeter on make sure we have 12 volts, or at least close. That's something you want to check as well. Check if you have good battery, okay? If your battery is not good, start with your battery. If it's not good, nothing's going to work. So I think 12.6 or a little bit lower is good enough to start your car. But check your battery voltage. Make sure you have a good battery. Even if you don't have a multimeter, check your lights. When you turn your ignition and your lights dim, that's a good indicator. So let me show you this setup real quick. Alright guys, so now I'm going to check. If I do the whole setup on testing the starter, bench testing the starter, just going to check my battery voltage. It's been sitting probably 4 days after I got it charged. So negative on negative, positive on positive, and I have 12.56, which is good enough for this test. Alright family, so watch the setup now. So make sure my ground leads are on the correct polarity. If you're going to do this at your own risk. And everything, like I said from my videos, family, just take everything with a grain of salt. Make sure you do your own research and your own homework. So negative, negative, positive, positive. I'm sure you guys know how to use jumper cables. Running to the starter now. The starters, the body is the ground, the same way it is on the car itself. When you bolt it up to your transmission, that's where it gets its ground, and the transmission and the engine gets its ground from the wires hooked up and connected to the chassis. There isn't, from what I know, unless your car is special, your K series is special. Doesn't matter if it's an RSX, Honda Element, all the K series, from what I know, it's grounded to the chassis from the engine. Okay. This is our constant 12. This is my 4-gauge wire from my wire tuck system. It came in handy. I have it here on the the red, and the switched 12 volts, which comes from when you turn your ignition switch. It's right down here. Be careful, don't short anything out, which is right here. I'm going to use this wire I have hooked up to this as well, and I'm just going to touch it. I'm going to set you guys up on the tripod, and when we give this 12 volts, we should see how our Bendix comes out. This is a good starter. So, alright guys, so hopefully I get this shot in the camera. You guys can see. Now, if you're using a thin gauge wire to jump the signal, obviously you don't want to keep it on there for too long because it's going to get hot. This is I think it's a 16 or 14 gauge wire I had when I was doing my wiring for my fuel pump. So yeah, that's what I'm supposed to see. Now I'm going to hook up one of the bad starters, the one that came out of the car originally, and show you what it's doing. As opposed to the other one, the brand new one, as you see, it comes out all the way. So I'm pretty much positive that it's my starter. Now, like I told you, took this into the auto store. They tested it out as okay. If I'm correct, there's an inspection window when they get done plugging in all the numbers and whatever on that machine. I don't know if the guys check that. I don't want to judge anybody's skills or whatever, but if you guys are not scared, I would suggest doing this instead of not saying wasting your time taking it to the auto store, but just see it for yourself first and then take it in there, and just to get both perspective. But I think I should have done this method first. So I'm gonna put the new starter in, and hopefully that fixes my problem. Just gonna add this in here. Well, the test that the manual recommend doing is continuity test. Sure you guys know that term, just to check if there's any breakage in the wire or a system like this. It's good to have the service manual as well. So I have my multimeter set on continuity. Like I said, I'm just going to check to see if there's communication between the solenoid and the amateur motor or the body of the starter. For example, this again is one of my charge harness wires that I made, and I'm just going to put one end of my tester prong, one end, and I should hear a beep. It should be 0. So this is a good wire. So I'm gonna do the same with the starter. I'm gonna put one lead in the solenoid, one lead on the body. So it has good connection. So this would probably say that the starter is good electrically, but mechanically, as we saw, that Bendix, that it wasn't going out full extension. So that could kind of fool me as well. If I did this test and I didn't hear the beep, obviously it still need to be replaced. So yeah, I just thought I'll just throw that in. Guys, I'm sure you can see the starter down there. Pretty easy to remove and install. All you have to do is just remove this top bar, 17 and a 14 on the starter, and it should come right out. There's lots of videos on it on YouTube, so I really need to do a whole tutorial on that. So I have that installed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another test just to make sure my signal wire for my starter solenoid for the switch 12 volts is getting some sort of voltage. I already have my battery jerry rigged, so I'm just gonna test that out real quick. The battery is reading at 12.53, so I may not get that reading here. Hopefully somewhere around 11.8, because it has a little bit of resistance. So I'm gonna just verify that again to make sure it's getting some sort of voltage, and that will eliminate, hopefully, that everything going from the wire back to the ignition is okay. Because I got a bunch of parts from the junkyard as well, from that Civic. Found a Civic as well, Civic Coupe EX single cam, but all the parts are the same as far as electrical. So this is ignition switch. I thought my ignition switch was bad, so I got that, and I got a bunch of relays. This is a starter cut relay, so once this is bad, nothing's going to work. I should see nothing from here, so the stock one should be good. So I'm going to set you guys up on the tripod and see what voltage we get from this multimeter. If you guys are curious how I have this hooked up, one lead, red lead is hooked up to the ignition switch wire, sorry, and the ground is just hooked up right here. So let's see what we get. Alright family, so I'm inside the car. If you guys made it this far, you know, like I said on my videos, man, much love and respect. I don't want to draw it out, but at the same time, I just want to show you guys what I'm learning, and hopefully some of you guys are learning with me. And again, I know it's nothing really entertaining, but hopefully in the informative side, you guys are learning something. So if you guys have made it this far, man, much love and respect. So this is the relay I have here. I took a bunch of them from the junkyard, from that Civic. This is a location of the underdash fuse box, and here is the ignition switch right here. So I mean, it's pretty simple if you guys mess with relay, especially like the Bosch style 5-pin, 4-pin style relay. You know, you have an 85, 86, 87A, 87, and 30. So if I'm correct, it gets the power from the underdash fuse box. One pin gets the constant power, the other gets the switched. The control side goes to the starter, and that goes to the starter solenoid, and the other pin goes to ground, to the transmission, if that makes sense. So I have here hooked up to one of these plugs. There's a yellow wire that gets constant switch 12 volts. I have my multimeter hooked up. I have it ground, well, not yet, but once I touch it to one of these to this ground surface, or I guess you want to say the skeleton for the dashboard, and once I turn that key over, I should at least see some voltage. Alright guys, so let's see what we get. And this is how I thought my computer was dead. My ECU was somehow dead or crashed or got burned or something. The fuel pump primed. So if it was an ECU situation, I don't think the fuel pump should be priming. So you're gonna hear it in a minute. If you guys heard that. So again, if I turn this, you guys see. So the ignition switch, I would say 9.5 out of 10 is okay. Like I said, I have it hooked up here, yellow wire. So I think that's good. I just want to show you this tool real quick. I'm no way sponsored by this company. I bought this for my own money from Amazon. It's called Ansel. It's a circuit tester. Most of you guys probably know the brand called Power Probe, which is more higher quality, but it's just a fancy circuit tester. You know your regular incandescent test light or your LED test light tester, but this is pretty cool because you can test for voltage, resistance continuity, you know what I'm saying? So it's pretty cool. And just real quick, I'm going to test one of the relays I have here. So it goes to battery negative, battery ground. It has a ground lead that you can hook up to whatever your apparatus is. So again, from the schematic of that relay, one is 85 and one is 86. Switch 12 volts or switch ground. So either or, I'm just gonna put it on there, give this power, and we should hear a click. Sorry for the noise, a lot of cars driving up and down. You guys can hear that. So that relay is clicking. So it's pretty cool. The cool thing about this tool is that it gives power. If you need to give something power, you can give it power. So I'm going to use this right now and control the starter from the outside just using this. So I'm not going to switch the key. I'm just going to use this. Press this button up, put it into the starter solenoid plug, and that should crank the car, hopefully. Alright guys, so I have the Power Probe hooked up to the car now. The car battery is hooked up to the car itself as well. So if I touch it anywhere without pressing these buttons, I should have a good ground. I can check my chassis ground as well from the engine, my engine ground. That's good. So now I'm going to try and feed this down here, and like I said, I'm going to use this to turn the car over. No one's in the car. I'm not faking this. I don't have anyone here helping me, so I don't want to seem like I'm lying or whatever. But as I said, this should start or turn the car over. The car's not going to start because I have the fuel pump auxiliary set up from the surge tank, so if that switch is not on, it's not going to get fuel. So let's see if this works. And if the starter is good and it has a good ground, once I touch that that solenoid plug, it should beep. So I don't know if you guys can hear that. So that's ground. So once I press that button, it should crank over. So there we have it, guys. So I guess our problem was really the starter. This thing is real cool. So I'm gonna end the video out here. I'm sure it's long already. I'm gonna try and edit it as short as I can, but hopefully you guys learned something from this. And yeah, it was a start all along. Before I end it out, I decided I'd do a key start this time. But you can tell the difference with the new starter, man. It's like it has so much like more voltage or whatever, man. It's crazy. So let me see if I can get it started up for the first time in 2 weeks.